Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Matt Doughty with us today. Matt is the founder and CEO at Prefactor. He's Antler, Australia, 2012, right? So that was a long time ago.
No, 2024. I must have put a typo.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And yeah, Matt and I were talking about food prior to this podcast. He's in Sydney, I'm in Oaxaca, so both are good scenes for foods, different price tags, and so forth. How did you get into Antler, Matt? Let's start with this.
Yeah, so I mean, I was at Procore, the construction tech company, for 6 years, and had left there. Spent 5 or 6 weeks away with my family back in the UK, and was deciding what I wanted to do next. And what it was, either go back into the corporate world or go into a startup. And kind of the draw of the startup world was so great. I was going to go and do it on my own, and then I discovered Antler, and it just kind of allowed me to just find a co-founder and kind of really settle on an idea. And so from there, it's been amazing.
Let's talk about Procore, because I have one YC client of mine right now that's a competitor with Procore. He's building Fresco AI, which is it's like a ChatGPT but for construction. So you just walk around, you take pictures, you take track of the projects, and you just deliver on time, way more than with the usual technologies. So what? Tell me a bit more about your time at Procore and what's useful for contractors. Superintendents, architects, engineers, what's useful for them on field?
Yeah, so I mean, I left the UK back in 2018 and joined Procore almost as soon as I landed in Sydney. And so they were really building out their business across APAC. And so I kind of joined as their first enterprise customer success manager. And over the next 6 years, kind of grew that to a team of 6 across Asia. And so I think, it depends where you're talking. Like in Australia, the business did tremendously well within SMB and like mid-market. And so the benefit to those type of companies was, well, you can have a one-stop shop for all of your construction management needs. You might need to buy something for safety, but like ultimately, that was where they were focused. I think more globally, the breadth and depth of the platform is so significant that it's very hard to kind of break into that market. I think that the trends that we saw from customers was they didn't want to have like point solutions. They wanted to have one big solution like Procore. And I guess their model is all about having a marketplace, which you can then integrate into. So if 95% of the people in the world are in enterprise and mid-market are using a Procore or an Autodesk or an Aconex, like being able to integrate with them is just absolutely key. And so giving them that functionality. But yeah, I think that's probably the highlights.
You were with them for 5 years, so that how can one person last so long at the company? And what were your numbers? Tell me about like how much you generated for them.
Yeah, so I think we had a tremendous run. We went through COVID, we went through an IPO, and it was a really great journey. I think in enterprise for us, it was interesting because when we entered the market, it was owned by Oracle Aconex, and they've done a tremendous job as an Australian kind of original. Aconex was Australian, and so they kind of built their model around how other companies operate, and specifically for construction in Australia. I mean, we went from I remember my initial book when I first joined was about 1.5 million, and I think by the time we left, it was about 25-30 million, and so like we saw a significant increase. And that was obviously partnering with sales and the other teams' implementation around the business. But I think like the reason I stayed so long was because every year was different. And when you're growing at a clip of like 20 to 50 to 100%, depending on which location you're in, every day's a new day. And it was a first opportunity for me to experience a big company, and we were at 4,000 people when I left. And so, going from 1,000 to 4,000 is a significant journey. And so it was fun.
Right. And you generated 25 mil for them. Like, I guess they paid you well. They gave you like a nice commission. So I have 2 questions here. Like, how does one recruit a Matt as an AE for their companies, and how do you keep them around for that long?
Yeah, I mean, Procore were very generous, both from RSUs from a options perspective and then kind of a salary perspective. I think, and that was part of the reason why I stayed, of course, and why many people do, I'm sure, stay in big businesses. I think the way you hire people who are passionate about doing the work is by, I think, like for me, like the thing that's always made me successful is my level of curiosity. And it's really basic. I think you have to be curious about the space you're going into, even if you don't come from, say, construction or construction tech. You've got to really care about the people that you're working with. You've really got to care about the problems that they're dealing with. I think my view is that you can pretty much teach someone the sales cycle, or you can teach someone how to account manage. But if you don't care about what it is that you're doing, then you might as well give up and go home. But that's probably the trick to it.
And what got you out precisely of that 150K salary a year, like to starting your own company? Like what pushed you there? Because you need to be pretty
Yeah,
insane
I
to
mean,
do that.
yeah, I mean, like I've been there, as I say, for like 6 years, and I had a great run. And I think for me, like it wasn't really kind of ticking the boxes of what's making me happy. Like, I'd known for about 6 months or so that my well-being, if you like, just wasn't where it needed to be. And I think that was partly about control. The bigger the company, the harder it is. There was also some significant go-to-market changes happening across the business, which I think will prove to be very successful. But ultimately, it wasn't something that I was particularly passionate about. As a quick example, we went from being pushed down to being very commercial around the business, and going after new business, and that was the kind of our main focus. But the direction the business was going down was the customer success team was going to become much more product driven. And that's not to say that I wouldn't have been able to do it, but it just definitely wasn't the area that I was most passionate about, and so it felt like a good opportunity to leave.
And the GTM, how do you actually get superintendents, engineers, project managers to respond to your emails? Give me the playbook for my clients so I can generate him a bunch of leads.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit different because I was obviously working with people already, but like the people within the businesses, I think you've just got to be able to give them the hook of why they should be interested. I think that, AI is an interesting one because if you think about construction and the profile of the people that work in construction, they're typically a bit older. They're typically kind of the latter half of their career rather than the beginning. And so the type of people that are going to be interested in AI are going to be the ones that are either kind of forward in technology anyway, have been forced to do it by their business, or really looking at taking that next step up and making a change in their organization. I think that most people probably struggle to get their head around the use cases. I think as well as like being really clear on like who is the decision maker and what influence do they have. I've seen so many different variations of the decision makers and companies that have kind of ownership of the budget at the top and no distribution downstream. I've also seen a lot of companies have a lot of success going to the project level. I can't speak about the US, but certainly in Australia, like the success that we had was predominantly around focusing on individual projects, making champions of their project leads, their teams, making them love it, and then being able to get them to promote upstream into their businesses. And I think if you can get that motion and you can target them in the places that they live and where they are. The other thing to say is like in construction is very in person. So, I've seen success from other companies and Procore going on to project sites, taking a barbecue, taking some, whatever it is, some food, some beer, and having a chat and really understanding and getting to grips with the problems that they face on a day to day. I think AI is an interesting one because, it's such a buzzy space at the moment, but if you think about like that kind of learning curve, construction workers are probably not at the very forefront of that. Generally, there are some examples of some amazing businesses using it from when I was at Procore, but I suspect the adoption curve is a bit flatter.
Got it. And what led you to the Prefactor idea? How did you came up with that one? And tell us a bit more about the company itself.
Yeah, so Prefactor, so we're building the Terraform for user access control. So we're giving people the ability to define in code, version control, manage, automatically test your authentication and authorization parts of your platform. So we're very like heavy dev tech, very heavy kind of cybersecurity. As for kind of how we came to this, so I met my co-founder on the day one of the Antler program. So Simon's down in Melbourne. He has like 25, 30 years experience as an engineer. There's like a real gun in the space. And having worked at 6 different startups before, like each time he went in and was like, well, we need to relook at this authentication. So authentication is logging in or access controls, permissions. And he would go in and go like, well, what do we have here? And often he would go, well, I need to rebuild this because I can't find a solution that's a third party that I can use. And so he had a massive amount of experience kind of doing this very fundamental problem, which, you know, many people consider to be a solved problem with companies like Auth0 who are kind of leading the way. But you speak to most CTOs today and they'll be going, well, you know, actually, this is not a solved problem. This is a pain in the ass. And so the idea came from Simon, and he spoke to me about it and was like, look, every company in the whole wide world needs authentication and authorization. You know, the way that companies do it today is very standardized. There's problems with pricing models. There's problems with the way that the functionality gets to you. And we need a way to be able to make this better. And so really what we're taking on is like a very disruptive play in a fairly mature marketplace to really kind of disrupt the status quo.
Right. Yeah, I use Google authentication. I use LastPass, some biometrics on this Apple computer that I feel still very much broken. Like one, it's not secure, and two, it's not fast. You know, so I guess that's sort of the problem that you're solving, but you only solve it for enterprises, right? Is that your ICP?
No, well, so yeah, we're focused primarily on customers, users. So our ICP today is seed stage to Series B companies, and we're focused on their CTO and head of engineering. And the main reason for that is these companies are going through significant change internally when it comes to their growths. And so what typically happens is small companies will build, you know, very, very fast. And from day one, they'll be going, okay, we need Firebase or something really simple to get us off the ground. When you get about 3 or 4 years in, what you find is that maybe they're doing a digital product, maybe they've done a bit of M&A, maybe they're seeing extreme growth in the enterprise. And each of those brings with it separate problems. For example, enterprise, we all know there's like 150, 200 questionnaires, security questionnaires, and they all say something about authentication and authorization. And if you haven't got a good answer for that, then it makes it a lot harder to sell into the enterprise. From our perspective, what we're doing is solving that and giving you the opportunity to kind of have something that can scale with you. So ultimately, what we're giving is control so that you don't have to be forced into authenticating your users in a particular way. Enterprise is definitely on the roadmap, but their compliance requirements for us are significantly higher, and we need to get our pre-seed away so that we can do that.
Right. And what is the classic use case? How do you solve that problem precisely? How do you make it more secure and faster via the existing solution here? Because I'm on your website, right? And checking like concretely what you do. How do you actually do it? Is it a SaaS solution? Do you still have like a agency consulting backend? Like tell us about specifically how you're solving that problem.
Yeah, so we're a SaaS platform, and companies will use an SDK, which will then embed it into their platform. So our kind of key differentiator is having a domain-specific language. Now we're getting into the technical here, but like the domain-specific language essentially allows you to define in code. So today, the way that you do it is you'd go into a dashboard, you'd click a couple of buttons, and it would be as limited as kind of the way that you want to run your software. With us, the DSL enables you to basically do it like you would if you were building your own platform. And really what we're trying to get back to is, you know, the engineers code and build on their day-to-day with their fingers in their CLI, in their environments, and, you know, having to drop something from a third-party provider into their platform that is completely opposite to how they normally work is really disruptive. And so what we're trying to make it feel like is, like I said at the beginning, like Terraform has done a tremendous job of allowing engineers to spin up kind of virtual machines and other things in the infrastructure space. And so that's what we're trying to replicate, is that really, really easy to deploy model. and combining authentication with authorization, which is pretty novel in the space.
So Terraform is a competitor of some kind?
No, so Terraform is just this big beast in the dev tech space that has been built off the back of enabling engineers to very quickly spin up kind of infrastructure on your website or your platform. And so it's the methodology they use to get the infrastructure spun up that makes it really easy for customers. And so that's kind of the model we're trying to replicate.
Right. And what customers pay you exactly? What's the plans or the options?
Yeah, so today we're obviously very early. So we're 4.5, 5 months into our journey. We've got one paying customer from Canada, which we're very excited about. Has just agreed to sign this week. I think the main kind of the base price that we've got today is $350 a month, which would suffice for most B2B SaaS companies. If you're a day one startup, then we're doing like an 80-90% kind of deal for the first year when you're one person and you're trying to manage your runway as best as possible. And we're really looking to speak to anybody who's interested in who has this problem really.
And why would they go with you and not an established solution? What are their alternatives?
Yeah, so the alternatives out there today would be something like Auth0, which is owned by Okta. You've got Clerk. You've got who else? You've got WorkOS. There's a couple. I think that they all kind of model themselves in the same way. So it's a SaaS dashboard, API integration, bang. And we see the space as being commoditized. This is a commoditized space. No one's coming to authentication providers to differentiate on the functionality. So it's like, do we want Google Social? Do we want SSO? Do we want social like logins? Like everybody does that. So it's really about like how do you differentiate in that sort of space? Well, for us, it's really about that coding, that engineering experience. That for us is just the absolute secret sauce to how we're looking to deliver this. And so if you're an engineer, you know, today 50% of companies will write their own, so build their own version of this from scratch, not use a third-party solution. So we're targeting those people who typically say to me, "Oh, you know, I don't have the control, I don't have the visibility, I can't automatically test, I can't version control," and so it's really hard for me to be able to have confidence in these solutions. And so being able to have something that they can do that, you know, we believe that we can convert that percentage of companies that are doing this today. The other side of it, on the kind of permissions and access controls authorization side, 95% of companies are rolling their own. So, you know, that is in and of itself a pretty staggering statistic when you're talking about a pretty fundamental part of our everyday SaaS platforms. And so, well, how do we tackle that? Well, I think we just have to exist. And so if we can deliver on the authentication side, then we believe strongly that we can then transition into the authorization and have one platform to do everything.
And how do you prove that you are safer?
Safer, yeah. I mean, I think the safer is a difficult one because you only really realize how safe you are when you get hacked. I think it's integral, and I think that's interesting. It's been an interesting journey for us because like we can't build just a really simple front end via cursor to deliver the experience. Like we've had to go deep into our infrastructure and do all the things that I'm sure YC tell you not to do, which is, you know, build fast or build slow, build out your architecture and all the rest of it. And because ultimately, if we did that, if we went quick, then it fell over, then we're dead. We're dead in the water. You know, one hack when you're early, it's just like, well, what are you doing? It's your job. I think what's really interesting is like you can introduce things like AI and more like machine learning to introduce stuff like adaptive authentication, where, you know, a really good example is like impossible travel. So I don't know how many platforms do this today, but the concept of impossible travel is you're in Mexico, but your phone is trying to log in on Canada or the US or wherever, and you can't do that because you can't be in two places at once. So how does it stop that happening? And there are ways that you can introduce additional layers of security. You know, you can ping mobile phones to say, "Are you logging in this place?" or whatever it is. And so, like, it's the data that you can use to really drive greater outcomes is really, really exciting. And I think we're just kind of scratching the surface with the potential. And I think there's also a real interesting opportunity there.
And what have you got out of Antler so far?
Yeah, Antler's been amazing, actually. I think you know, you go on Reddit and you go on the forums, and there's always different people that have different experiences. You know, I think that Antler provide a really structured environment for achieving success in a business. I think the people that we see fail are people that probably aren't willing to bend from their model. So, you know, naturally you have to come in and you have to have a business that's VC backable. Needs to be needs to be a company that's worth $1 billion. It's more likely than not to be software, and you need to have kind of a degree of flexibility. That means that if your idea sucks, or that if it's not VC backable, that you've got to change. Like for me, I was extremely pragmatic. I came in with an idea about a week and a half after I came into the program. I got some feedback that I couldn't quite land on a solution, but an idea. Then I started working on kind of the authentication space. And so I think like I've loved everything about Antler. It's been, if not the best, one of the best experiences of my entire life, and has given me a platform to go off and achieve things which I didn't think was possible.
Well, thank you for being on today, Matt. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so our website is prefactor.tech, and please reach out to me on LinkedIn, Matt Doughty, Doughty. Yeah, I'd love to speak to anyone going through the challenges of building a business or authentication.
That was Matt and Charles.